Okay. Scratch that out. Alright, boom. What's a goodie, Kels gang? Welcome back with your boy. About to dive into another reaction. The most underrated team of all time. What is the most underrated team of all time? Hey, NBA edition, by the way. I don't know. I can't answer that question. But maybe our boys over at Nonstop can help us. So, without any further ado, let's dive into this.
The 2023 Miami Heat are only the second eight-seeded team in history to reach the NBA Finals. But out of all the Finals teams ever, no roster had 9 undrafted players. However, this is no coincidence, because Miami is known for finding gold in overlooked underdogs. This is a story about the Heat culture and the most underrated team in NBA history. In 2023, 126 undrafted players found their place on an NBA roster, but no team leaned on them as much as Miami. Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, and the rest of the overlooked mob scored a league-high 34% of the...
Disclaimer here. Most of the names that I'm going to hear, I probably have never heard of, so don't shit on me. Actually, do you know what? You can.
Teams' points during the regular season.
Do your thing,
the number of undrafted guys on their roster isn't the only reason why they're the most underrated team ever. Heading into the playoffs, the Heat had the 13th longest championship odds at 150 to 1. Before the play-in games, it was even worse at 210 to 1. Miami was a 10 to 1 underdog in the first round against Milwaukee. In the conference finals, ESPN gave the Heat a 3% chance of reaching the NBA.
Yo! These guys were being... Nah, that's disrespectful. That is disrespectful. 3% chance.
Finals, ESPN gave the Heat a 3% chance of reaching the NBA Finals.
Of course, Miami has a chance, but the Celtics are and should be the favorites in this series.
Yes, they are.
Even after winning both
do you know what? I can't even talk shit about that because
just a 50%
Celtics was my team for the longest time.
Giving up a 3-0 lead in the conference finals,
I know,
their confidence never wavered. When it was most important, Miami's players stepped up and won Game 7 in Boston, even without the injured Tyler Herro and Victor Oladipo. But the Heat overcame the odds and proved that you should never count them out. This year's Heat team is only the second 8th seed in NBA history to reach the NBA Finals, after the 1999 New York Knicks. Miami's success is even more unbelievable if you know that they ranked last in points scored in the regular season. They were also in the bottom 5 in assists, rebounds, field goal percentage, and dead last in blocked shots. Miami lost the first play-in game versus Atlanta, and their final chance to make the playoffs came down to the second play-in game against Chicago. If someone told you that the team losing in the fourth quarter of the play-in game was going to the finals, you'd call them crazy. And you'd bet $1 million against them. But you'd be wrong, because you should never count.
No, you would not, because a betting man would know that situations change. A betting man would think ahead of time, 5 to 10 steps ahead. So a betting man would bet for them. You're wrong on that point. I'm sorry.
Count out Jimmy Butler, the Miami Heat, and the Heat culture.
These are the type of teams or plays that I would bet for.
And why does it matter so much when it comes to winning?
When they are underdog, yes, I will, because I have been put as an underdog a lot of times.
The first thing it says is this:
with good reason, though.
The hardest working, best conditioned, most professional, most unselfish, toughest, nastiest, most disliked, most prepared team in the NBA. Along with this and other motivational quotes are pictures of blood, many pictures of blood. But the Heat Code is not some self-help manual with a bunch of phrases thrown in. The Heat Code is a cultural manifesto. It contains the core values, identity, and goals of the Miami Heat. The first staple of those values is physical fitness, work ethic, endurance, and stamina. Heat culture is also a winning attitude, because the Heat never tank. Losing on purpose is simply not written into the franchise's ultra-competitive DNA. The creator of the Heat culture, and the main reason why Miami is considered one of the best organizations in the NBA, is Pat Riley. Pat is a born winner, and in the 50 years he's been involved in the NBA, he won a championship in every decade as a player, assistant coach, head coach, and team president.
What? Nah, repeat that again. Pat Riley. This man deserves a bit more than that. Say that again.
Pat is a born winner, and in the 50 years he's been involved in the NBA, he won a championship in every decade as a player, assistant coach, head coach, and team president. They call him the Godfather, and Riley's impact in the NBA is immeasurable. He was the first person to start filming opponents' games and then spend hours scouting their habits, dissecting the smallest details, and thinking about where to gain an advantage.
Okay.
Riley is also the creator of one of the most potent NBA offenses in the history of the league, the famous Showtime Lakers. On the other hand, he's also the creator of one of the toughest defenses in NBA history, with the New York Knicks from the early 1990s. Riley came to Miami in 1995.
It's my distinct pleasure and honor to introduce you to the new president and head coach of the Miami Heat, Pat Riley.
And immediately laid the foundation for the Heat culture when he brought in Alonzo Mourning from the Hornets. Zoe was a true Riley soldier, a center known for his warrior spirit and the fearsome intensity with which he played every game. Riley also brought in a dress code and established a clear hierarchy in the franchise. But above all else was physical preparation. Training, fitness, and strength are the holy trinity of Miami's culture and the foundation upon which success rests. A player isn't worth a penny if he doesn't try to get himself in optimal shape. The least we can ask of players is to be in great shape. Every morning before training, the players are greeted by the same words written on the blackboard: mouthpiece, knee pads, rib pads. Contact is so prevalent at Heat practices that players were often knocking knees. To avoid injury and to still go as hard as possible, Heat staff realized that they should simply demand all players wear protective gear. The message is, you are preparing yourself for war. Practices should be harder than games. If anyone asks for a break due to fatigue,
we're talking about practice, not the game that I love. Practice. Come on, if you know, you know, man. Steph, if you can find that video, please put it up, because I feel like a lot of people won't know what I'm talking about, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have known. So, hey,
or is caught resting their hands
put that
on
up. You know what
during
to do, man.
practice or a game, they'll be fined $100. The standard training equipment,
wait, what?
Hands on their knees during. If anyone asks for a break due to fatigue or is caught resting their hands on their knees during practice or a game, they'll be fined $100. The standard training equipment is followed by the process of weighing and measuring body fat every Monday. All players, without exception, must be below 10%. If Heat players miss their target weight, they'll be fined. If they continue to flunk the tests, they'll be suspended. Because some players knew the test was on Monday, they would go to the sauna right before and starve themselves to lose 7 or 8 pounds to make their weight. Then Riley even started to do random weigh-in tests to prevent guys from cheating, and nobody is above the law, not even the biggest superstars. When Dwayne Wade showed up to training camp weighing around 230 pounds, he told Riley that he bulked up. Riley responded, "No, you're fat." This was during Wade's prime, and the players were surprised to hear Riley talk to Wade like that, but it sent the message that everyone would be held accountable, with zero exceptions. When Shaq joined the Heat in 2004, he measured at 13% body fat. Now, Shaq was the biggest superstar in the game, but even he knew that there was no messing around with Pat Riley. So Shaq was forced to build a 24-hour fitness center near his house to meet the Heat standards. In his last year with the Lakers, he ballooned to almost 400 pounds. But
Bro, why'd you have to do him like that? Why? What do you mean he ballooned? He gained, bro. God damn. I'm so sorry, guys. If you see that in the past videos, my speech has been, you know what? I don't even think you care, but borderline is I have hay fever and it's killing me, and I can't breathe through my nostrils. So it is what it is. Do you know what I mean? But bro, balloon up? No, gained. I don't know why, but switching the word gained with balloon, the difference it makes is...
In his last year with the Lakers, he ballooned to almost 400.
Now, pick this. In his last game with the Lakers, he gained over 400 pounds. You're like, okay, yeah, that's mad. But if I say in his last game, he ballooned, you're like, God damn it, boy, inflated.
In his last year with the Lakers, he ballooned to almost 400 pounds.
Inflatable,
Miami, he dropped all the way down to 315. Sayings like, no fake gym rats, no excuses, and always get 1% better are part of the Heat's mantra. And that's why there are countless examples of players getting into the best shape of their lives when playing for Miami. I feel like I can run for days. I feel like I can just stay out there and continue to play. I don't get tired on defense. I don't get tired coming off screens when the coach calls that play for me, said Wayne Ellington during his tenure with the Heat. In 2008, when Riley decided to retire from coaching, he appointed a coach that was one of the hardest working guys in the organization and the epitome of Heat culture. To the outside world, he was completely anonymous, but Riley knew he was the right man for the job. It was Erik Spoelstra, who at the time became the youngest head coach ever. And out of all the coaches in NBA history, Spoelstra had the most unusual path ever to a head coach chair. Since he was not an NBA player, he only played 2 seasons for a low-level club in Germany, Spoelstra knew he simply had to work harder than everyone else. As soon as he came to Miami in 1995, his co-workers named him Mr. No Problem, because Spo performed every task flawlessly and without any questions. If Riley needed a compilation of all types of pick-and-roll defense for the next opponent, no problem. Deciphering the signals for actions of opposing coaches, no problem. Compiling a scouting report deep into the night, then carrying the VHS tape to the airport and putting it on a plane so that Riley could have it before the away games, no problem. In 1993, the Heat decided that they needed a video room, so they literally threw things out of a basement and put in a couple of computers. Since there were no windows in the basement, they called it the dungeon. Spoelstra basically lived in the dungeon for 3 years, rarely going home, which is illustrated by the fact that his apartment was broken into 3 times during that time. In 1998, Riley took Erik under his wing and made him an assistant coach. Spoelstra didn't even own a suit that all Heat coaches were required to wear, so Riley loaned him a few of his own. Because he worked harder than everyone else, Spo graduated from the most ordinary trainee scout to the video coordinator, then to advanced scout, then director of scouting and development coach, all the way to the head coach. In 2011, after the Heat lost the NBA Finals to the Mavericks, LeBron...
Hey, come on. I love I love hearing such stories, man. I'm telling you. No matter, I think I tried to say this in all my videos, no matter where you start. Like, even with this YouTube thing that I'm doing, I'm shit. I'm in terms of like where other content creators are and where I am with my reactions, I'm not there yet. But do you know what? At least I recognize that, and I'm giving myself time to grow by not being harsh on myself. But at the same time, I'm not refusing. Like, I have an editor, Stefan, who likes doing all the shit, but sometimes I also like to be involved, and I would tell him like, no, let me be there at least to see what you're doing. It's not like I'll ever really need it, but I still want to know it, because you never know. And that's what my man Erik, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, but that's what he did, man, and big respect. Big respect. Always big respect.
After the Heat lost the NBA Finals to the Mavericks, LeBron came to Riley's office asking for a coaching change because he wasn't yet aware of Spo's greatness. Riley didn't want to hear it, and he had full trust that Spoelstra's work ethic would make the Heat come out on top. And Spo responded the only way he knew how, by locking himself in his office and watching the finals footage a million times. He realized that the team didn't reach their full potential, that they lacked defensive intensity, and that the offense was too stale and too dependent on him calling the actions. To get to the bottom of the problem, Spoelstra turned to Chip Kelly, the celebrated football coach at the University of Oregon, and decided to implement Kelly's spread offense with the Miami Heat. The result was something that the NBA had never seen before. The Heat played without a classic point guard and center, with LeBron and Wade as primary ball handlers. Spo was the first coach to play positionless basketball and switching on defense with small ball lineups.
We got to get tougher down there. It's 2 offensive rebounds. Those are in traffic. We can't give those up.
Spoelstra prepared fanatically for each opponent, as if he was still in the dungeon. Many years later, LeBron said that Spoelstra prepares for every game as if it was his last. Miami then won 2 titles and played in 1 more final. But when James returned to Cleveland and Wade and Bosh succumbed to injuries and age, Miami sank to average. Still, they never tanked, and Spo got the most out of every team, and they never won less than 37 games. In 2020, the team made the NBA Finals with a cast of misfits surrounding Jimmy Butler. 3 years later, the Heat added even more misfits around Jimmy, and here they are again in the finals. To the outside world, the 2023 Miami Heat are the biggest underdogs ever to reach the championship series. For the Heat, they always believed in themselves and the Heat culture.
It just says we're a resilient group. We stick together through everything.
After they started the season 2-5, Jimmy said, "We're still going to the championships, and I don't care what nobody says." Everybody thought he was crazy. But unlike any other franchise, the Heat and their players don't shy away from doing the dirty work, which comes to light during the playoffs. In 2015, the NBA started measuring hustle stats. In the 2023 playoffs,
Hustle?
Miami
What is
leads
a hustle
all
stat?
postseason
How do
teams
you-
in deflections with 18
How
per
do you,
game.
like,
An average
measure
NBA team makes 270 passes per
hustling
game, and
in
no
a game?
defense is disrupting the passing lanes better than Miami's group of underdogs. They also lead all playoff teams in loose.
I think he was
An average
explaining
NBA
that.
team makes 270 passes per game, and
Okay.
no defense is disrupting the passing lanes better than Miami's group of underdogs. They also lead all playoff teams in loose balls recovered, screen assists, and charges drawn, all categories which are based on effort. The majority of Heat's players were undrafted and had to fight their way onto the roster through the
Okay.
G League, which they affectionately call the jungle. And they have this saying in the franchise: if you're from the jungle, no top draft pick should ever get a loose ball over you. That fighting
Hence
spirit is
hustle
embodied
status.
in every one of the
Bet,
Heat's players.
bet,
Because
bet.
to be a Heat player, you can't behave any other way. And nobody represents those fighting qualities as much as Udonis Haslem, a team legend and one of the first undrafted players to ever play for the franchise. In 2003, when Haslem first showed up at Heat's training camp, he played with such intensity that Riley and Spoelstra believed that he was going to injure somebody. It was borderline dangerous. We may have to shut this guy down. He's going to hurt people. But this guy is a Miami Heat player. We can't let him out of this gym. Because of his work ethic, UD was always a coach's extension on the court, a role he still serves today, even though he could have retired 7 years ago. When Shaq complained about not getting fouls, Haslem told him, "Shut the up. You're the biggest motherfucker on the court." Nobody talks to Shaq like this. But because of Haslem's intensity, there's nothing O'Neal could say to him. If somebody would start slacking on the court, Haslem would call them out. Max Strus was undrafted and then cut by the Celtics after he tore his ACL while playing in a G League game.
That's
All
essential.
29 teams would give up on a borderline NBA player with a torn ACL, but not the Heat, who believed in his grittiness and shot making. And Strus is now a starter on a finals team. The same is true for Gabe Vincent, who tore an ACL in college.
Again,
While he was
man.
struggling to make ends meet in
I'm
the
telling you, you just need somebody to give you a chance. I think I literally said that in like one of my videos from yesterday. Like, bro, everybody can do it, man. Everybody's got it in them. You know what? You need an extended hand and a helping hand. But also, you need to have your own mental fortitude to say, this is what I want. I'm going to go get this, regardless of whoever says yes or no to me. Because guess what? They ain't him. So I keep moving. You know what I mean?
His college coach
Come
offered
on,
him
bro.
a safe job as an assistant coach, but Vincent didn't want to hear about it, and he fought and scrapped to make it in the NBA. So it's no surprise that he found a place in Miami's rotation through the G League. Duncan Robinson was a 24-year-old with no NBA offers after he went undrafted in the 2018 draft. When he worked out for the Heat, Miami's lead scout Chet Kammerer said it was the most incredible shooting workout he'd ever seen. Robinson then went through the usual Heat path for an undrafted player, spending time in the jungle before he became a full-time member of the team. And in 2021, Robinson signed the largest contract in NBA history for an undrafted player, $90 million over 5 years. But maybe the craziest of all Heat's undrafted players is that of Caleb Martin, who went undrafted in 2019 and was later cut by the Hornets. In 2021, with no NBA job, Martin played pickup in North Carolina with J. Cole, a famous rapper and basketball lifer. Cole had some connections with the Heat, and he called up ex-Heat player and current assistant Caron Butler, saying that Martin was killing it, and they had to give him a chance. Martin got invited to training camp, and now he's one of the biggest reasons Miami made the NBA Finals. Martin was the Heat's second best player in the conference finals versus Boston, averaging 19 points per game with insane shooting efficiency. We're going to give you the same opportunity we're going to give the number 1 draft pick. You got to work hard, but we give everybody that confidence. We believe in leadership at all levels. Even Jimmy Butler, who was a late draft pick turned all-star, had a reputation as a locker room cancer and a guy who doesn't get along with anybody. He was seen as a liability for most NBA teams.
Butler and Karl Anthony Towns arguing with one another as they head towards the Minnesota bench.
But Jimmy fit in Miami's environment like a hand to a glove. Butler is one of the hardest workers in the NBA, and when he got to Miami, he never had a problem with anybody. Jimmy and the rest of the rejects formed an infamous breakfast club, their name for early 5 a.m. off-season workouts, and that is Heat culture and what they represent as a franchise. Heat culture isn't about winning, it's about how you win. It's
Yeah.
crawling to the finish line if you have to.
Yeah.
It's leaving
It's
nothing
it's
in the tank.
making
When
it.
the Heat were down
Just
2 games to
finishing
nothing
it.
in the 2006
Started,
NBA
finish it.
Finals, Pat
I
Riley
like
came
that.
to his players with a bucket of water and stuck his head in the bucket in front of the whole team. When he finally took his head out of the bucket, Riley said, "If winning means anything to you, it will mean as much as you taking your last breath." From Pat Riley to Spoelstra and all the way down to the last guy on the bench, they're a bunch of resilient, hard-nosed overachievers who never give up. To the rest of the world, the 2023 Heat are the most underrated team to ever reach the finals. But to themselves, it's just another day in the office, another day to fight until the last breath.
Damn. Miami Heat, yeah? Most underrated team of all time. That's what Nonstop says. I don't know whether I can agree with that, but do you know what? From what I saw, there's a lot of backing evidence. What am I supposed to say? Like, man, Jimmy Butler was not fitting in any other team, but somehow he fits in the work ethic of the Heat. All these other players that they named that didn't fit within the scope of the team, all the other players that they named as misfits, but like just sewed in perfectly. That just goes to show you that their team was there to take in players, and it wasn't the other way around, if you get what I mean. And shout out to my man Pat Riley, and shout out to my boy Erik Spoelstra. I think I said that right. Hey, it is what it is, and the Heat be providing all the fire. So, hey, I ain't got nothing to say against that, man. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. As always, you do know that this is one of 5 different channels that I have on this YouTube thing. So if you're looking to diverse into other sort of content, I got you. All channels will be linked in the description down below. And of course, link to the original video will be down in the description below. For now, it's your boy, and I am out.